Good evening. Welcome to episode 174. As always, let's start with our gratitude attitude. So, if you would please gently close your eyes. Take a deep breath. As you exhale, relax your body. Take another deep breath. As you exhale, let all your stress melt away. Take one more deep breath. As you exhale, completely relax your body. Now, think of one thing that you're thankful for that happened in the past week. Once you identified that, think about why you're thankful. And now let's set it free. If you're by yourself, say it out loud what you're thankful for and why. If you're with someone, tell it to each other. All right. So, we've been talking about our mind for the last few sessions. We looked at three types of mind, right? The gross mind, the subtle mind, the very subtle mind. And then we dived into mental factors that identify the object. So we're going to continue this down this rabbit hole and discuss mental factors that guide us to an object. And there are five mental factors in this category: aspiration, firm apprehension, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. And we'll look at each one. So, aspiration is a mental factor that takes an interest in an object. It's similar to, not similar, it is wish, right? We are all here for meditation tonight. Now, if you did not have aspiration to calm your mind or wish to calm your mind or make progress on your spiritual journey, you wouldn't be here. So, the main function of aspiration is to induce effort. Think about it. If we don't have a wish to meditate, we would not put an effort to be here, right? Makes sense. You could have a million excuses. It's Diwali time, it's dinner time, whatever, right? But you have a wish to meditate, and that's why you made an effort to be here. And that's true for most anything we do, right? Without wish, we don't do absolutely anything. So there are four types of aspirations: wishing to meet an object, wishing not to be separated from an object, wishing to obtain an object, and wishing to be released from an object. So let's take an example. Your kids are coming home for holidays. You wish to meet them. That is wishing to meet an object. Week goes by, you don't want them to leave. That is wishing not to be separated from an object. You want to get a promotion or you want to make a lot of money. That's wishing to obtain an object. You want to remove your self cherishing. That is wishing to be released from an object. Now, depending on our motivation for each one of them, it could be a virtuous aspiration, non virtuous aspiration, or neutral aspiration. For example, wishing to steal is a non virtuous aspiration, right? We all can agree on that. Wishing to meditate, on the other side, is a virtuous aspiration. Now, let's look at firm apprehension. It's a mental factor that allows our primary mind to apprehend the object firmly. It's also a foundation for our mindfulness. Because you see, unless we understand an object clearly, we will not be able to keep it in our mind for long. Take this topic, for example. These teachings actually come from a book called How to Understand Mind. When I first read that book, I would put it down after a couple of pages. It's too complex. Then I started to break it down in relatable examples. And that helped me continue to read the book in a way that I could explain to someone else. And that's my parameter or barometer for most any teachings, that can I explain this to someone who listens to this for the first time? The answer is yes. That means I think I understand the subject matter, right? But without firm apprehension, our mind is like a floating leaf in the air, right? Falls in the air. A leaf falls down the tree and it floats in the wind, right? It doesn't stay at one place. It keeps moving as the wind comes. And often, unless we have an apprehension of an object, our mind is just like that. It keeps floating from a topic to a topic, object to an object. It has no direction. Next mental factor is mindfulness. And we talk about this all the time. It is a mental factor that allows us not to forget an object that is realized by our primary mind. It can only stay on the object if it's already been realized. That's the important piece, right? If the object's not present, it cannot, you can't have mindfulness about that object. It maintains the continuum of the object without forgetting it. Let's take an example what all that means, right? When we do our empty sky meditation, right? We say that our mind is like clarity. It's like clear blue Colorado sky, right? Not a cloud to be found. Once we realize that our mind has this empty sky like nature, and then we keep our focus on the clarity of our mind, mindfulness helps us keep it there. Right? It just stays there. Because thought comes, we don't chase it, right? So we focus on the clarity of our mind. That's mindfulness. We'll continue to observe that clarity without any distractions. But if our primary mind lacks mindfulness, it will forget the object. Right? Sometimes I remind that, hey, if your thoughts have taken you somewhere else, please come back, right? Go back to your breathing so that we can come back. The function of mindfulness is to prevent distraction. That's it. The more stable our mindfulness, fewer distracting thoughts we have. And we need to make continuous efforts to improve our mindfulness. The next guiding mental factor is concentration. It helps us keep primary mind on an object single pointedly. And it can only develop when an object is firmly held by mindfulness. So there are three types of concentration. When we are meditating, it's a virtuous concentration. Now, when you're driving, you also need concentration. That's a neutral concentration. And when we are thinking about our opponents or our enemies, we have non-virtuous concentration. Concentration is very important in our spiritual progress. Listening to teachings, reciting mantras, contemplating teaching, meditating, all of those things are effective when we have a mind that is concentrating. Buddha said that prayers, mantras, spiritual readings are of all no use if the mind is distracted elsewhere. Think about that, right? I know a lot of you, maybe, or in India, a lot of people do this every evening. They recite a prayer, right? But when they're reciting the prayer, right, their mind is a million other places. So it doesn't really help. It's good to focus when we are doing it only on that task, right? Because the main function of a virtuous concentration is to make our mind peaceful. When our mind is free from distraction, it becomes calm and peaceful. And when it is peaceful and happy, craving for external pleasure declines and we become content. Pure concentration also helps our body and mind become comfortable. The next guiding mental factor is wisdom. It's a virtuous, intelligent mind that makes primary mind realize meaningful object. Virtuous, intelligent mind helps us realize meaningful objects. So what are the meaningful objects? Those are what's known as universal truths. For example, cycle of birth and life. That's a universal truth. Existence of past and future lives. That's a universal truth. Laws of karma. That's a universal truth. Emptiness. That's a universal truth. So there's a monumental difference between intelligence and wisdom, which I want to bring it out here. An intelligent person is not necessarily a wise person. Right? Hopefully you can agree with that. Give you an example. A scientist who develops weapons of war are intelligent. You can question their wisdom in doing so. The guys who stole these jewels from the museum in Paris last week, right? They have to be intelligent, but they're definitely not wise, right? Or these wolves on Wall Street, if you will, right, who prey on investors are definitely intelligent, but we won't call them wise. So it's good to remember that it's two different things. And function of wisdom is to eliminate doubts and misunderstandings. It also dispels ignorance. If we understand the benefits of wisdom, we'll strive to achieve it. Because the opponent of wisdom is ignorance. And nothing harms us more than ignorance. Because when we are ignorant, we create negative karma. How do we get wisdom? Wisdom arises from listening or from reading spiritual teachings. It can arise from contemplating on those teachings and meditating on those teachings. So, as you can see, our mind is a fascinating subject, and we're just going to peel these layers so we understand how a mind functions. We'll keep doing this uh, on the topic. We'll stay on this topic for a while. Um, Now, in today's meditation, I won't do taking and giving meditation. It's been a long time, I think, since we did that. So I'm going to set this up as to how we're going to go about doing this. Uh, as always, we'll settle down at our heart, right? And then we're going to imagine, and you have three different options here. You can imagine a specific person who is suffering, right? Who's not happy, who is not peaceful. He's in general suffering, physical, mental, doesn't matter, right? Or you can imagine all the people who are suffering from a specific illness. Everybody who has cancer, for example, right? Or you can imagine all living beings and suffering of all living beings, up to you, right? So we'll imagine suffering of these people, one of the three groups you choose, and all that suffering will be in front of us in the form of like a black, thick cloud. And as we breathe in their suffering. And we imagine that that suffering destroys our self-cherishing nature. Because root of all our problem is our self-cherishing nature, right? Our me. And then we wish them, as we breathe out, we wish them peace, happiness, joy, or free from their suffering, or free from their illness, right? Whatever you would like. So that's the idea, and I'm going to guide you through the whole process, of course, right? So if you're ready, let's begin. Please get into your meditation posture. Back straight, spine upright, shoulders leveled. Gently close your eyes. Keep your mouth just a little bit open. So any stress you have in your jaws will dissipate. Palms in your lap, right over left. Thumbs gently touching each other. Take a deep breath. As you exhale, let all your stress drip away. Take another deep breath. As you exhale, let your body completely loose like a ragdoll. Bring your attention to the sensation of your breath at your nostrils. Feel the cool air as you breathe in. Feel slightly warmer air as you breathe out. Keep your attention on your breath for about a minute or so. Now, bring your attention at your heart. Imagine everything that happened before this moment melts into light and disappears. Things that have not yet happened are not real anyway. So it's just this moment. Enjoy the peaceful nature of your root mind in this moment. Let this peaceful moment bring the next peaceful moment. Remember, there is nothing to do. There is nowhere to go. Just enjoy. Now, imagine someone whose suffering you want to eliminate, or a group of people who are suffering from similar illness, or if you're brave, all living beings. Imagine this suffering right in front of you in the form of thick black cloud. As you breathe in, you inhale all of their suffering And their suffering destroys your self cherishing nature, your me. And as you breathe out, you wish them happiness, joy, and a state free from suffering. Breathe in suffering. Let that suffering destroy your self cherishing nature. And breathe out, wish for them to be joyful. Breathe in suffering and let that suffering destroy your self cherishing nature. And breathe out a wish for them to be free from their suffering. When you're ready, gently open your eyes. Okay. Any questions? Go ahead, Premo.
No questions. I was just going to say, good thing we are recording this and it coming in small chunks. But
Yeah, but it's
we have to,
fascinating subject.
yeah, it is deep. But you have to, the re-listening helps, I think.
Yeah,
Just,
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And if you when you're listening to it, if you kind of come up with your own examples, right, that may help.
yeah.
So, any other questions, comments? All right.